Today I'm just going to talk you through one of my trainings I did. So at the moment I'm trying to become a weightlifter and hand balancer at the same time, or at least I'm trying to get better at both disciplines. Actually, I'm not only doing those two disciplines, but I'm also playing table tennis in a team in a pretty high league where the competition is also um, pretty strong. And what else do I do? I do some juggling. I also do tricking, which is very, very difficult for me to learn. But let's focus on today's training session. So, of course, there's a warm up before I do hand balancing. I'm trying to get my hips warm, and I always, in the beginning, I like to move into different positions. I don't like staying in a position for too long, at least at the beginning. I like longer stretches more at the end of my warm up or maybe at the end of the workout. But at the beginning, I'm just trying to move around a lot, and I really focus on my weaknesses. So, what I did before was I was leaning back on my knees to stretch my quads because they are very, very tight. Here, for example, I'm working on my shoulder mobility. My shoulders are also very tight, and I have quite some difficulties opening them up in the handstand, which is very important. I'm also going to go over some technical details in the handstand later, so be ready for that. And yeah, so here I'm going back into that position where I stretch my quads, and I'm having a very hard time getting into the position. You can see my knees are already lifting up, and my back is already in a arched position because my quads cannot handle all the mobility, so my lower back has to compensate. Here I'm doing some rotation, trying to focus on internal rotation, which is very bad actually. There's a very, very easy test you can do to check if how your internal rotation is. Here I'm lifting up my foot, which is more of an active position. Like I always try to do some active and then some passive stretches. Well, an active stretch is not actually a stretch, but some active exercises, some passive stretches. Yeah, just moving through the range. Like you can also do the rotation of your hip in different positions. You can do it with flexed hips. You can do it with more extended hip. So right now I'm reaching back with my foot. So that is a more extended position in the hip. I'm just trying to get some variation in. And then that is called the pancake, when you're able to fully fold down your upper body and lay on the floor. You can see I'm also lacking there quite a bit. I always measure how far I can get down with my fists. If I stack both fists, if I can touch them with my head or not. Um, here I'm doing some external rotation. The pigeon stretch also helps me a lot to loosen up my hips. And like I said, I'm trying to do a lot of rotation before I do abduction, like the side split or like front split exercises. And I also think there's quite a negative influence if you do a lot of strength training for your flexibility. I know some people or a lot of coaches say that it does not matter and that you can attain both. But in my experience, it makes it a lot harder to stay flexible when you do a lot of strength training. I think maybe everybody's a bit different. Maybe I also really haven't figured out the best approach to flexibility yet. Maybe I'm doing it too often or too intense or not intense enough. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm getting to know my body better with each training session I do. So I guess I'll figure it out. And my mobility has improved quite a bit if you look back over the last years. So here, that's a test you can perform to see how your external and internal rotation is. When the foot goes outside, that's actually called internal rotation because your hip is internally rotating. And a normal, it would be normal if you can get 45 degrees. So for me, I can get about 45 degrees external rotation, but I can get much less with internal rotation. So I'm trying to do a lot of internal rotation. This is a great stretch as well. Here I'm mixing it up with spreading my legs and closing them again, trying to keep the knees straight. It's also sometimes, especially after I wake up, I can feel that stretch extremely in my back, which is also very nice. But I need some time to get into it. And yeah, so the abduction that I'm doing here is especially important for handstands, which I'll do very shortly. Since in the handstand, I'm working on one arm handstands, and there it is the further you can go into a side split position with your hips, the easier it is to balance the one arm handstand. I also like to do lunges for hip extension. That also makes my hip feel way nicer, way healthier. If the hip flexors are very tight, it can also lead to a bad posture. It can lead to the pelvis tilting forward, and that causes an arched back. And I do struggle with that problem as well. So I think I should do even more hip extension exercises like the lunge, or stay in that position for a longer period of time. Then this one is a very nice drill as well. So I'm going into a pancake. It's very nice because it combines different aspects of flexibility. So you improve your hip flexibility with that exercise, but you're also working on your shoulder flexibility. So those exercises also just save time if you're working on two joints simultaneously. I'm trying to push my chest forward here. I'm trying to keep my knees locked and my toes pointed, and I'm pulling the band behind me as hard as I can. And in between, I'll just let myself being pulled forward by the band. So again, the combination of active and passive stretch. Side bends, also a weakness of mine, which you can see. Barely getting over there. Here I always try to keep my arm very straight, the arm that is on top, but I sometimes forget. That's also a nice way of using the band. It helps to stay open while doing the side bend so that you don't collapse forward. By the way, don't forget to flex your bicep once in a while. Yeah, I think in the future I'll do those videos a bit shorter, but it's my first YouTube video, so I'm just trying to learn on how to do it, and I hope I'll get better at it. So I really hope that we're moving to handstands very soon. Here, one more shoulder extension drill before we do the handstands. I'm just trying to lift up my hands because of the position I'm in. I cannot cheat by extending my spine, so really all of the flexibility has to come from the shoulders. That makes it also very, very difficult, of course. And it's very nice to move from the hands being in front to the hands being at the side. Here another passive stretch after the active drill. Then, of course, warming up the wrists before we come to the handstands, which is very important. Never neglect that. I've had wrist issues many times before, so always make sure to warm up your wrists. Go on the palm of your hand as well as the back side of your hand. Apply some pressure and really take yourself some time. That was just, yeah, a brief sequence, but I would suggest doing it a bit longer. Here's some external rotation. I need that for my shoulder health. I realized that the strength I have in this exercise is much greater on my right side, and my right side also has no issues with pain. But my left side, I'm experiencing some shoulder issues, some shoulder pain. So I'm trying at the moment to work up the strength, especially in this exercise. I, on purpose, have some distance between the elbow and the body. But you could do this exercise in different angles, so you can mount the band a bit higher and leave the elbow exactly on your body, or you can lift the elbow even further away from your body and have your elbow at shoulder height, but then of course the band has to come from the bottom, because you always want to pull in the direction or the opposite direction that the band is pulling you, of course. Okay, on to some handstands. No, not yet. Another quick drill where I'm just trying to be in a straight line with my arms overhead. One quick forward fold. Yeah, rotation of the spine. That's also very important for me. If I don't do that, I'm getting very immobile. I think you can also see that in the video that it doesn't look very flexible, very great. So yeah, I need to spend a lot of time here. Okay, the first handstand. Yeah, usually not the best. Fell down again right away, but just kick up again. And looking at the form here, yeah, you can see a slight curve in the lumbar spine, but I think it's pretty straight, so I'm pretty happy. So the warm-up was very worth it. If I don't warm up, the line is a lot worse. So I look like a banana. Oh yeah, and then when I start doing handstands, of course, you need break in between the handstands. That's why you can flex. Or, no, I'm just kidding. You can do other exercises as well. Just in between the handstand sets, because you need the break anyway. So here I did some light bottom up presses, which help stabilize the shoulder. Here I also realized that my right side, which doesn't have any issues, is much stronger than my left side, but only if I keep the kettlebell bottom up. If I turn it the right way, then it's actually my left side is a bit stronger. So that just shows that I have some stability issues in my shoulder, in my left shoulder. So now from doing a normal handstand, I move on to doing some leg movement, which is also quite a nice warm up, of course. And then in between handstands, I also do a lot of hip mobility exercises again, like more passive stretching because I did more active stuff in the beginning and at the warm up. So I'm just trying to relax into the side split and go a bit deeper. And then I try to use that new mobility in the next handstand set and try to get my legs a bit further apart. I think it's very, very crucial that you film yourself if you do handstand training, because how it looks and how it feels is a lot of times very, very different. Here you can see another exercise I did in between, which is a back bend. What I'm focusing on here is not doing all of the movement out of my lumbar spine, even though it looks like all the mobility is coming out of the lumbar spine. It's very natural that the lumbar spine has the most extension capacity, but surely you can get some extension also in your thoracic spine and in your shoulder. Just try to open up as far as you can. It's a very intense stretch. And those that were 2.5 kilos I held in my hand, they make a huge difference. So now you can see I'm starting to do some weight shifts. So I'm preparing for some one-arm handstand stuff, or some one-arm handstands. Using some chalk can also help, because if your hands are sweaty, then balance is very, very hard. By the way, another tip for filming, um, don't always film from the same angle. So I like to film from the side and from the back, um, because it just shows different mistakes. So here on my right side, you can see that I'm actually rotating quite a bit. The foot that's closer to the camera is off to the left. So I also review the handstand after I've done it, so I can look what I did wrong and then correct the exercise, the form. I used to struggle a lot with rotation on my left side, which is actually has gotten way better. I'm almost not rotating anymore on my left side, but now I'm rotating on my right side. But since my right side is way more stable, I have way more control in my hand, and I also have much more tension in my body. Um, I'm still able to hold the right side much better than the left. I'm actually haven't really been able to hold the left at all. So here I'm holding like maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and I had to touch the floor again with my fingertips. So looking at the technique, I'm pleasantly surprised about the side view. Now on to the view from the back. Here are different things that you have to consider. For example, the shoulder has to be stacked on top of the wrists. And on my left side, I'm sometimes struggling and shifting my shoulder a little bit too far outwards. Yeah, getting frustrated here, doing another side split. Handstands are super technical. I'm now training one arm handstands for about 3 years. I still have such a long way to go. Here I'm kind of losing my side bend a bit. So when you initiate the one arm handstand, here you saw it, it first starts with a light side shift in your spine. And I'm always trying to keep that small side bend while I push out of my shoulder and shifting all my weight to one hand. But that is very hard. I sometimes tend to shift the weight back to the middle with my hips again. And that causes my shoulder to go too far to the outside. So it's super technical. I also have the problem that I'm arched in my back a little bit too much. And looking at the shoulder position here, it just doesn't look super stable, which is quite annoying. After a while, I moved on to another shape. Now I'm really struggling with the rotation again. But on my right side, my shoulder is just way more stable. So even though I'm rotating quite a bit, I can still manage a little bit of balancing, which I'm very glad for, since I have put a lot of work into it. And then that's a goal of mine, to do movements with my legs during the one arm handstand, but it's still a far way to go. Here, that one looks actually pretty good on my left side. So I recommend to really focus on something. With each set that you do, have something in mind that you want to do better, than the set you did before. So do a set, review it, so film it, then review it. And then if you experience, or if you can see that, oh, my shoulder was too far outside, then really try to correct that. So here I already wanted to put on my weightlifting shoes to start strength training, but then I thought, let's try another handstand. And the form looks so off. But yeah, my back is totally arched, but I think the concentration was gone already. So don't do the sessions too long. Maybe like 2 handstands for 40, 60 minutes, but it depends. It depends on how good you are, how much strength you have, how much concentration you have, if you're used to doing long sessions or not. Okay, so one of the main the main focus for me with weightlifting is getting my legs stronger. So I'm not actually doing weightlifting here. I'm not doing the snatch or the clean and jerk, but I'm just doing some strength training for my legs. Since I think my technique in weightlifting is pretty good already, and I don't think I can improve it much more. For sure, a bit, but the way for me to lift more weight is, of course, by getting my legs just stronger. So I went up to 105 kilos at the end, and I think I did 4 reps, and they look pretty solid. I'm trying to go into the bottom of the squat very controlled, because I have also been experiencing some very slight knee issues, so I'm just being careful, and going down slower is a bit easier on the knees. Then another leg exercise. I did hamstring curls. So the setup here is pretty good, I think. Doesn't work with shoes, and you need some cushion for your knees, otherwise it's very painful. And yeah, so what you do is you try to keep your hips forward, or don't let them come back too much, and then you just bend, let the hips touch the floor with your head, and then come up again. Um, the further your hips are forward, the harder it gets, and every centimeter makes a lot of difference. So even if your hips are just 3 centimeters more forward, the exercise might be quite a lot harder. Um, yeah, so don't make it too easy on yourself. Try to keep the hips forward, and try to keep the spine neutral. Don't round, don't arch. You can see at the bottom I'm rounding in my back a little bit, which is not perfect. So I'll have to critique myself here. And then I also did, I think, 2 or 3 upper body exercises, and then that was it for the training. Here I'm doing ring push-ups. By the way, the room you're seeing is my own gym. It's only one small room, but it's in my apartment, so very convenient for training. Yeah, ring push-ups are awesome because of the stabilization. You have to do them very controlled. The movement has to be pretty good, and like I said, with my shoulder issues, it's a very, very good exercise. And by the way, um, like I'm telling you all the time that I have some issues, since I'm doing all the rehab stuff and I'm really careful on what I'm doing. My shoulder has been way better the last couple of weeks, and I rarely have any pain anymore. But I'm still very careful. I don't want to, um, yeah, I don't want to have pain in my training. I don't want to make it worse again. But very glad that it's getting so much better. Here I'm doing some rows with 90 kilos. I also like my form quite a bit here. It looks pretty muscular. That's cool. And then I finished with some pull-ups, so a typical drop set. Normal pull-ups are pretty easy for me, so that's why I did some heavy rows before, and then some pull-ups afterwards, just to get some volume in. I don't have any crazy goals for upper body strength anymore, since I can do a one-arm pull-up, I can do some handstand push-ups, so I can do a front lever. So I'm happy with that. I'm just trying to build some muscle, to stay healthy, to keep moving in my upper body. And that was it for the session. Thank you for watching. See you next time.